So in Mark chapter 4, Jesus goes and preaches 9 of the parables. The parable of the sower, the candle under the bushel, seed growing secretly, wheat and tares, the mustard seed. He goes on this teaching, what I call a teaching tirade. He's like just preaching parable after parable after parable. It's actually so crazy. He actually has to take the boat out to the water so he could preach to the masses because there's so many people out there that he's preaching to. And so he's out there, and now, like, Jesus is, like, tired, right? Because, like, now we have, like, speakers and microphones and all these things to help us, like, project our voice. Back then, it was just you. I can imagine Jesus yelling, God is here, you know, like, just, like, going out and teaching, because he's speaking to thousands of people. And he's preaching this, and now it's like evening, he's done, and he's like, all right, I'm tired. He goes to sleep on the boat, and he says, hey guys, let's go to the other side of the sea. And then what happens? A huge storm comes, and all of his disciples like freak out, right? Like, Jesus, how can you sleep in a moment like this? After he's done teaching this thing for like who knows how long, how many days, right? He's just grueling, just grinding it. And this storm comes, and Jesus and he rebukes the storm, and then it like calms down, right? And then Jesus shows up in the land of the Gerasenes, which is the Decapolis, right? On the other side of the Sea of Galilee. And he goes there and he meets this guy. When he shows up, there's a demon-possessed man coming out of the tombs. I'm going to paraphrase this just for sake of time. He comes out of the tombs and he's like, Jesus, why are you here? Like, leave us alone. Like, essentially, go away. But Jesus is able to free this man from all these burdens that he has, all these demons that are in him, and puts him in the pigs and comes off, right? So we all know the story, yeah? Okay. So let's go to slide 2. So this is after Jesus takes all the demons out of this guy. He is completely free. And in Mark chapter 5, it says this. Those who had seen it, which is the miracle of like taking the demon out, the people had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave the region. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. Jesus did not let him, but said, go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you. So the man went away, began to tell the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him. And all the people were amazed. This is like, this guy hits me really hard in terms of what evangelism looks like. Because, before this, Jesus is healing people, showing miraculous signs, healing the blind. He's doing all this stuff, and he's telling people, hey, don't tell anyone about this. You hear that? It's so weird, right? Jesus, I can see. And Jesus is like, shh. like, let's bring it down some. You know what I'm saying? But in this case, this is the first time where Jesus is like, hey, go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you. That's crazy. Mind you, if you read this, it doesn't say Jesus said, he doesn't say this, go tell everyone how much you have sinned. He doesn't say, go tell everyone how much they need him. Right? Don't tell everyone how much Jesus can do for them. Are you seeing this? That's not up there. So what are we looking at? What are we looking at? Those things, I went to a Seahawks game, and you see those guys with the picket signs, with the megaphones? Yeah. And they're like, Jesus is coming, like, you're sinners, like, come to Jesus. You know, they have these things, and they're super loud, right? And I was like, okay, I already knew I was going to speak on evangelism. And I was like, dude, I'm going to go up, and I'm going to talk to one of these guys. and be like, okay, let's see how like successful you guys are. I want some stats, like how many people have come to you, how many people have you offended, right? Like I want numbers. I want actual numbers. And like the week before, there was a guy out in the Mariners game, and someone ran out and cut his megaphone. No. So they were all on like super high alert, right? Because this is the week after. Yeah. And I was like, I'm just going to leave the guy alone. You know what I'm saying? And you hear this like message where it's like, come to Jesus or die, turn left or be right or be left. Right? And you get this like Bible thumping theology where it's like, yeah, like those are important things to know the Bible, to have a relationship with him. But this guy is not preaching the book. This guy is not preaching all the things that we believe people need to know. This person is preaching. He's not even preaching, I don't think. He's telling his story. He's telling what God has done with his life, with my life, with your life. So when we go preaching, what are we doing? Are we telling people about our knowledge with our mind, about the things that they should know, that what God should do, that there's judgment there, that all these little details? Like I went through a training where it's like, and it's a really good training, right? Like I'm not dissing on this at any means. It's a really sweet packaged thing where it's like God wanted to be with us. He made us in the Garden of Eden. Everything was perfect. We sinned. We broke. And they started this cycle. And then God saw that there was no way for us to make it back to him. So he sent Jesus to die for us so that we can repent, have the blood of Christ on us, and be in relationship with him again. Right? Very sweet, very compact. There's what the map is for evangelism technically, is what I've been taught, right? But when I read this, it's a little different. It's a little different. It says like, what has God done in your life? And I believe that what God has done in your life is something that God will use to change someone else's. Because it's speaking from a place of experience. It's speaking from a place of like, whoa, this was really bad. But then God somehow miraculously heals it. If you read on, Jesus leaves. He literally comes to the east side, talks to this guy, leaves. A couple months later, Jesus comes back to the Decapolis. What happens? There is a massive crowd waiting for him. This is where he feeds the 4,000. Actually, is in this Decapolis. When he comes back months later. The demon-possessed guy did his job. Because all of a sudden, it's packed. And Jesus is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I also feel that moment, just a side note, I also feel that moment, that's probably the moment that broke the camel's back for Judas as well. Because he's like, don't send these people home. We're going to feed them all. There's 4,000 of you, yeah? So Jesus comes back to the Decapolis. He's surrounded by people. There's people everywhere. And I was like, the only reference of this is seated in one guy, this man who was possessed. And all he did was tell the story of what Jesus has done for him. I think that's very clear in terms of what we should be doing when we go out to evangelize. It's different than what we're seeing. It's different than what we see online. It's different than what we see on the street. Sometimes it's good. I don't want to knock it. For some people, that works, right? But in my heart, I feel like one of the biggest things that God wants to use is you. He wants to use your story. He wants to use your experiences to change his people. And when we deter from that and we put on our legalistic hat, or we put on our judgment hat, or we put on our righteous hat, or whatever, I think we're in the wrong place. I think at times it comes to those moments where you have to clarify what the Bible is saying, but I don't think that should be the initiative going out there. Not at all. Not at all. I remember some of the, like I was talking earlier, some of the hardest moments that I've gone through. I remember I used to do I don't even want to say it's a campus ministry. We used to go to different schools and like just play worship songs during lunch. So we'd have, I remember when UW Tacoma first opened, my friend, she was like, hey, would you be willing to come and like play some music during lunch for their like Christian team? I was like, sure, okay. I don't really have a band. It's just me, and I had two friends. One was a drummer, and the other guy like played cajon, I think. I don't remember what he played. And so the three of us went out there, and we just, we kind of started playing like secular songs. See how it is, Play some John Mayer, some Jack Johnson stuff, right? Some really, really cool stuff. And then we switched over to like just praise music. And I remember, man, we'd get the stink eye from so many people coming to lunch. Man, I don't know what happened, but people were just angry, just upset that you're just like singing the gospel. Like, how can this be? Like, why? Like, who ordained that? Like, who let this happen here? And me and my two friends are just like singing worship songs during lunch, and a lot of people had all these questions about like after we're done singing, we had like multiple breaks, and it was like an hour and a half, and people would come and talk to us. And I realized there's a lot of people that were offended by it, right? Because of like Christian music here, what have you. But then there was a smaller, I would say the lesser group that actually had questions. That actually were like, hey, what church do you go to? And I felt at that moment like the gift that I was given wasn't a gift of entertainment, even as an evangelist. Because we have a lot of strengths that we're going to go over and some weaknesses. But at that moment, it kind of opened my eyes to like, it doesn't matter how good of a song it is, how good of a performance or lights or any of that stuff. Like, it didn't really matter how big this show was, because after it's all over, there's a small remnant of people that were actually curious. And we do this whole thing for that small few. Still worth it. But I didn't take notes of how many people were offended, because there are a lot more people that were angry at us than this small few. And so in my mind, I was like, we're going to go to the lion's den, and we're going to like take all this and like, and the wolves and sheep, and we're going to save the one. Right? And so we have this mindset. But like a lot of times, like as I'm getting older, I'm like, man, maybe that wasn't the right thing. Maybe that wasn't the right thing to offend all these people just so I could get to the one person, even though God does do that. Jesus does do that. But God kind of put a spirit in me that was a little more covert. I will love you without you knowing. And I think that's the ministry. I think that's the evangelism that I want to speak, that God has called me to help you without you knowing. Because I believe that God, like Jesus didn't want credit for everything. He's telling people, I healed your eyes. Like God saved him. Like he didn't want credit for it. The only thing he was saying is like Jesus, God, points everyone to God. That's what he did. And that's what we should do. Look at this story that happened in my life. Look what God has done. Look where I was before. Look what God has done. So your testimony is huge. Your testimony is huge. And when I look at my testimony, it is like all kinds of crazy. It's so intricate and so detailed that it could never happen if someone planned it. The Bible itself is written by how many people? But yet, it cross-references. It is so combined as if it was written by one author. Because it was. Right? So, evangelism. Let's go, slide 3. Let's go over some strengths of evangelism. Some of the strengths, and if this speaks to you, you're probably an evangelist, right? But it probably lives in your top 3, right? I'm going to go over these. Strengths, popular, well-known, has lots of friends and connections outside the church. I was given this. I didn't know I had this until like college, man. I I started a car club, and I was like, yeah, let's start this car club. It's going to be cool. And then like 100 people show up, and they became a massive car club. And it was like, we used to like drive, we take like all of I-5 from like Tacoma up to Federal Way, just in a single line, just convoying around everywhere, driving everywhere. I didn't realize like the popularity wasn't just me or how cool I was. Because, you know, I'm like a doofus in a lot of ways, you know. I'm not the coolest cat walking into a building, right? Like, I'm not. But I had this massive influence, this popularity just amongst a lot of different groups. And that's a thing that God had for me to bring people to him, which I didn't know until later. Boldness and sourage. I typed this too. This is the worst.
Spell check, James. Spell check.
And look, I didn't use AI, okay? This is just me and my fingers, all right? Just saying. Whew. Boldness and courage. Willing and excited to talk to new people. I remember I was teaching young adults. I was teaching young adults, and we're at the ocean. I think we're on a retreat. And kids were playing out in the waves because we're on the shore, and this lady was like calling after her kid, hey kids, like it's dinner time, whatever, and they're out there. And one of the leaders of the adults group had a megaphone, like super loud megaphone. And I was like, I ran up to this leader, and I was like, hey, like, give your megaphone to that lady. Like, she's trying to call out to your kids out in the waves. And the guy couldn't do it. He was like, what? Like, no. Like, why would I give it to her? No, like, I have this. And the anxiety of talking to people you don't know. I've never had it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never had it. You put me in a space, I will talk to whoever, right? Like, but you're overlooking the people that have this anxiety. Not everyone is gifted as you, right? This is gifted like that. Boldness and courage. Please not look at the sourage online. Please don't mock me. My friends online, please don't mock me. Number 3, influential. This is good and bad, right? But I'm just going to talk about the good part about this. We are passionate communicators. We tend to be loud most of the time. We err on the side of extrovert. Probably like 90-10 would be the balance. And we have good stories. That's cool. Flexible to the environment. We're able to adapt for any setting. I feel like my work, because I build laptops for a living, I feel like my work uses this a lot. Last year, July, they sent me out to Vietnam. Like, no one from my team has been out there. Like, I had to set the line in terms of, like, where are we going to stay? Like, how do you get there? What's our business discount? Do we get a discount? What if 100 people show up? Can I get a cheaper discount? Like, and do this negotiation and set up, a factory out there. My work has been using this. They drop me in places to know what's going on. But like, James, we don't understand what's going on over here. Can you go help them? And it's like completely different team. I'm like so out of like the water when it comes to like, camera resolution, all this other stuff. And they're like, go talk to the camera team or go talk to the audio team. And I'm just like, sit there and I just listen. But what I figured out was because I'm so flexible to the environment, I'm taking all this stuff in. And so when I go back, I see things that most people don't see because I'm trying to fit in, right? I see things. And number 5, earnest. We're an open book, willing to share about our own life's experiences. There is nothing that is off limits for me. I would like to say for most of us, that might be the case. We actually have stories there. A lot of us are hiding things. As we get older, it's just too hard to keep up with all the stories that are lies. Just speak the truth. Just speak it. It's going to be tough. Yeah, we've had bad moments, low moments in our life. But man, when it's true and it's in there, God's going to use it. When you make it up, there's no depth. There's no depth. All right, now comes to my the most dreaded piece of this whole thing. Slide 4, please. Dysfunctions. Woo. Overzealousness. Have too much energy, too much enthusiasm that makes people uncomfortable. I can see who's on here. How many people have experienced that guy? Oh yeah. Oh, it's crazy, man. I'm cheap, right? So I get gas in Fife. It's a Native American, like you don't get taxed and stuff. Like gas is cheaper there, by like 80 cents or something. So I go there, and some guy comes out, and he's like, "Hey," I'm like, "Oh, I don't have $1, right? My initial thing, I don't carry cash with me, like I have nothing." And the guy was like, no, like that's not it at all. And then he goes like on this tirade, and I can't even interrupt him because he like communicates at such a level where there's no gaps. There's no breathing. I don't know how that happens. Words just keep flying at me, right? They're just word after word after word after word, and I'm like trying to step in, and I'm not trying not to be rude. But the guy was telling me about how he made all this money doing some business, which is I'm guessing some pyramid scheme or something, They're like it was an energy drink. It was like an energy drink that was made by someone I don't recognize. It wasn't Pepsi or Coke, or it wasn't even the generic brands. It was some energy drink by someone in a garage. I don't know what it was, but he had like the logo on his car of the energy drink. And he's just like, "Oh yeah," and it's like he's like, "You can sell these too. Like I've sold like this many in so long," and I was just like, "Dude, I am so uncomfortable right now. Like I don't want to buy your drink, and I'm just putting gas in my car. Like this is not cool." And then the next one is burnout and discouragement. This one kind of hits hard for me. Like I said, these are weaknesses and strengths that I see myself having. So this is really for me, and hopefully for you as well. An extrovert, an evangelist, one of the most frustrating things is if we are out on the street preaching over and over and over, and we're just trying to bring people to church, and then we come to church and no one has showed up. And then we put in the effort again, and then no one shows up. And then we do it again, and no one shows up. Months go by, and you just keep going. Just keep pressing. This is God's work. I'm going to keep going, and no one shows up. At some point, you break. At some point, you burn out. At some point, you get discouraged. And sometimes, maybe you shouldn't have done it that way. And other times, it's a lesson for you. But I tell you this, most times, you've planted a seed. Most times. I was told when I was younger, that if you ever see the fruits of the seeds that you have sown, consider it a great blessing. Because most of the seeds that you sow, you will never see the fruit of. So we end up harvesting other people's seed. You've planted seeds that other people have harvested. So, but that's a weakness. We're looking at numbers. And then we get, oh my gosh. And then we get like lost in terms of maybe the marketing scheme isn't good. Maybe I'm not cool enough. Maybe I don't have a bright enough hat. Like little things, when you're when you're out preaching, like you're in the mall or something trying to get people to come to Christ, like, man, it's discouraging, man, and it's hard work. But it's worth it. But don't be overzealous and creep people out. It's number 1 up there for a reason. Number 3, we have a lack of follow-through. We've seen so many different evangelists over the time. I remember like Billy Graham. Billy Graham was awesome. I don't know if you've ever heard him speak. That guy's incredible. Like, so much authority, right? So much zeal, like so much, like so good. But I've met a lot of people that have gone to his crusades that never plugged into a church. That they have this like high rope moment where it's like, yes, thank you. We go to like a music concert. Yes, Jesus, it's great. And then you have nowhere to plug in, so you wait for the next concert. You wait for the next tent revival. You wait for the next great speaker. And we're constantly in this thing. And I think one of the downfalls of it was there was a lack of follow-through. There was a lack of people being plugged into their local church. They had this super hilltop moment, mountaintop moment. But when they went back home, it was an empty bed. And that's a weakness for us, right? For evangelists. Get people in the door, we're done. They're here, okay. But we should be a little deeper than that, right? Number 4, pride and self-exaltation. Man, I see this a lot too, especially in some of the bigger churches and stuff, where it's like, I got my crew. Here's all the people that I brought to Christ, and they kind of like have the same shirts. They have match and stuff, right? Little extreme, but yeah, like, oh yeah, we went to this thing. And so like, you tried to take credit for the work that you've put in, which in real life is okay, right? You're at work and you do all this work. Like, you want to make sure you get credit for that work, right? God's kingdom's a little opposite. It's a little different, where it's like you work and people show up, but you're not done. Like, you keep working and you don't take credit for the people coming in the door. Because we believe that God calls people to him. And maybe we're a catalyst for that, and God will use you for that, but how dare I take credit for what God is doing in people's hearts? Right? Like, how am I like, oh, well, this half of the group, yeah, they were all on the street. And no. And I find myself in this trap a lot too, right? Where it's like we did like a youth, we had youth meetings like all the last couple months, where every Friday nights at Newlife, everyone showed up. We all had fun and everything, right? It was great. And I felt the evangelist in me like perk up, because the first day I got here, the very first meeting, we get here, there's deer out there, and then there's kids. And I was like, I'm going to go talk to these kids, and they're going to come to this kid meeting. This is going to be great. I go out there, overzealous me, freaks them all out. Come to church, guys. And they're all like high school kids and stuff, because they're all back here. There's some kind of graduation party going on. I'm like, come to church, guys. Like, we have like food, we have drinks, we have games, we have all this stuff. And they're like, okay, yeah, cool. And then we start, and none of them show up. I'm like, oh snap. Okay, all right. The next week comes, there's a different group of people out in this basketball court. I'm like, yes, we're going to go get them. And so like, oh man. So I'm like, all right, cool. Well, last time it didn't quite work, and I freaked everyone out. So this time I'm going to get a flyer, one of our flyers that say, hey, we're going to meet. And I'm going to go out there and be like, just hand them out. Hey, you guys are from this area. Here's some things. Here's some notes. Like, here's some events that we're doing, some fun stuff and some dates. It's good for you guys. Like, very, very nice, very like, all right, polite, and like, all right, try not to freak them out from my overzealousness. None of them showed up. They actually came in the building and left. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. So this is like, God's like growing me, right? From this one. And then the week after comes by, there's a different group of kids out there. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is 3 strikes you're out territory now, right? Like, so I was like, Elijah, which, Elijah's not like the big, she's not like me, right? So I'm like, go out there and play with those kids. I was like, maybe it's better if the kids go out there and play with them and not me. So I'm like, okay. And then I think one of the kids recognized one of the other kids that were here. And then they're all playing together. And I was like, cool. And then they kept on playing. And so we're supposed to have a meeting, but we're like, forget the meeting, guys. We have kids playing. Let's just let them play. Because this whole thing was like, have an event for the kids and for the youth and stuff in the neighborhood. Fine. Next week comes, that group comes back. They come for our thing. And they actually came to like all of them, just the neighborhood kids. Yeah. That's insane, right? And I could feel inside me go like this. And this was verbatim the thought that went through my head. With your technical genius, you have figured out how to get these kids into this building. You know what I'm saying? Like when you go fishing and stuff, it's the same thing. It's like, oh, this tackle works, this tackle. But no. This is my 3rd time. I have a plan. I'm like waiting for this moment to show up. And man, pride and self-exaltation, there it comes. It was just pouring in. James, like, you did it. You finally figured, you cracked the nut. And it's just like, no, not at all. Not at all. And the last one is isolation from the team. Feel like everyone else is doing nothing because they're not bringing new people in. You don't need others to accomplish your mission. Just have me and a guitar. Put me on the road. People will come to church. My voice will woo them into our church, that kind of mindset. And you could be really isolated, man. Like we were saying, we're a body. And we work together. And when we work together, we can accomplish more. We can be together, accomplish God's work. So, So that's a lot, yeah? That's a lot. So on your table, you have a sheet. Yep. The sheet has your strengths and weaknesses and a couple questions on the bottom. If you can break up into tables, which you guys already are, but I see some like 2 people, like at least have 4 people at your table, please. And then also, please try not to be overly zealous. Breathe and leave room for people to talk. Yeah? So we're just going to take a moment, and then we're going to break up, and then we'll be back to wrap up. So go over to questions. If any of this pertains to you, we can share.